why is work a 4-letter word? You know, you're going to spend 75% of your life working, getting ready for work, commuting to work, and work, commuting home from work, unwinding from work. It's 75% of your life. Okay. Create an environment that's fun. Create an environment where people like what they do, where they can thrive at what they do. And what's the results?
Welcome to Vibecast, the podcast that dives deep into the heartbeat of workplace culture. I'm your host, Kristi Skutvik. Join me in conversations with extraordinary leaders as we unravel their experiences, both positive and negative, that have impacted workplace culture. This podcast is more than storytelling. It's about actionable insights. Are you ready to transform the vibe at your workplace? Let's go. Today we have Chris Allaire, the CEO and founder of Averity, which is a U.S. staffing firm and recruiting company, and coined by Chris as the best staffing company to work for in North America. Chris believes people hire people, and looking for the best opportunity in hiring the right person is more than an application and a resume. Chris began his career in recruiting and staffing in 1998 and has recruited and placed people all around the U.S. Averity, his company, is a company that pioneers a change in the recruiting industry by providing an unparalleled experience with everyone he and his team interact with.
So how do I define work vibes? You know, I think the vibe is the key word in there. When I think of a vibe, I think of the energy and the feeling you get when you think about your workplace. But when I define the workplace, what I think about is the energy and the feeling you get when you think about your peers, the energy and the feeling you get when you think about the brand that stands behind you, the company you work for, what that brand really means to you and what they're doing for you. Vibe, I think of the leadership, leadership in the organization, and what's the leadership's direction they're taking the company? How much of it do you know about? Also, I think about the vibe can be a lot about different innovations. And when I think about innovations, I don't just think about technical and those types of innovations, but the way you're thinking. Are you forward thinking on what's going on out there? So when I think about the vibe of things, believe it or not, I don't think about what you do, because I think you could do that anywhere. And you probably have 1,000 companies that you could go work for and do the exact same thing. But that energy is created around you. That to me that's the vibe that you're really looking for, that really gets you going every day to go to work.
I love that. And I'm sure, you can think of a few places at the very least that have that bad vibe and a few that have a great vibe. And I think, you and I have spoken a bit about your company, Averity, and I'd love to hear more about how you infuse these vibes into your business. Like, what is it that you hang your hat on and you say, this must be, and this is how I create energy, and this is how I create the vibe? And then what is the impact that you've seen by doing that?
So first and foremost, when I create the vibe of the organization, I have a set of what I call laws that are the trigger points of the company. So what I do is I let people understand that there are certain laws you need to abide to work here, and they're very common. The first and foremost is the vocabulary you use when you work here. I think that's a very important thing. So what we talked about is you don't have to work here, you get to work here. And so right off the bat, when you have that type of mindset, it's like, you don't have to do what you do, you get to. And as soon as you have reached that point that you don't want to anymore, and you don't treat it like, oh no, I have to get up and I have to do this, I have to, that's not a lot of fun. And once you've taken that fun out of it, now you're doing it just to do it, which means you're checking boxes just to check boxes, which means you're also probably doing it relatively sloppy, probably pretty lazily. And I'm not interested in having people do things just to check boxes. So what we want to do is go out and create an environment where people understand that they're working with people who love their job, who love what they do, who love the people they work with. They treat each other with respect, with teamwork, communication, collaboration, that above all else, what we are here to do is provide a service for people and have fun doing it. And as soon as you lose those vibes, I think you've kind of lost your purpose. And then you're just waking up like, oh, I have to do this. So I've really taken a really hard look at what really motivates people. And what I try to do is really instill some laws and some kind of rules, if you will, that really help people understand why I'm really here, and to give them that opportunity to propel forward and really be an asset somewhere.
Can you give an example of some of those like laws, so to speak, that you have within your organization that you help get people motivated and you help people understand like the energy that you've created for Averity?
Yeah. So I mean, well, like I said, the first thing first is the vocabulary, which is a big thing, and we can probably talk about it a little bit later. But I tell people a lot is like your vocabulary
Yeah.
on your mindset. The idea is just first of all that you get to do something, you don't have to do something. So right off the bat, it's like, changing that mindset is like you don't have to do it, but you get to do it. And if you think about it that way, all
Yeah.
of a sudden you start to feel a little bit lucky. Say something positive. I don't care what the situation is. There's a positive aspect that you can take out of that situation. Find out what that positive aspect is and utilize that to your best advantage. No
Yeah.
water cooler talk. All right. The little bit sessions. No, I don't want those. And believe it or not, no one wants those. No one wants to be a part of that. No one wants to be part of that energy. If you don't have anything positive to say, don't say anything at all. Just if you have something private to say it in private. Biggest thing is take time for yourself, to make sure you take time to take care of yourself. You are not chained to the desk. I don't care what anyone says. You chaining yourself for 15 hours at the desk is not going to help you hit your goals. Take some time for yourself. Go for walks, go get some air, go do something where you are a complete person, mind, body, and soul. We talk a lot about exercising. I don't make it mandatory for people to go to the gym,
Mhm.
but I highly recommend you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. I'm not going to monitor it, but these are good rules of advice to
Right.
help you be your best self every day when you show up. So I tell everybody, it's
Totally.
like, don't treat this like a hobby. Again, that's the get to versus have to. This is not a hobby. Don't treat it like a hobby. Give it 100% of what you have every single day when you show up here, and everybody will work together really, really well. So if you can't give it 100%,
Totally.
I get it, because we all don't have it all the time, but take a step back from it and make sure you're going at it with the right mindset in the right direction.
And sometimes we just have those days, right? And I'm sure you have it, you see it in your people that work for you. There's just days where you just need to like shut the computer screen and get outside and like start again, go again. And then and that helps change your mindset too, is to just kind of walk away from the thing that you feel maybe you're grinding at and creating like an impact of negative vibes in the organization. So, what you shared with me is that you have an organization that has very, very, very low turnover, right? The people who work for you love working for you. You've created this energy, you've created this vibe, you've created this like holistic approach to working for a Verity. So tell me how you assess for a vibe fit within your organization and within the organizations that you ultimately recruit for.
So the first thing I do is when we interview people, we interview for people first, not skill set first. So a lot of times what we're really doing is having just a genuine conversation with somebody about where they like, where they go, where they see themselves, what they want to do. And the way I was open, I was like, awesome, well, why are we talking? Like, what did you see about Averity that made you want to talk to us? And so right off
Sure.
the bat is I want to make sure that I'm have that type of the symmetry, if you will, the continuity with someone where they know who they're talking to and why they're talking to us. Because if they're already genuinely
Mhm.
interested, then right off the bat, I'm going to be genuinely interested. And then we can start a good conversation from there. I think another big thing is like, it's what I call is like true listening between the lines. And I think it's really important when you start talking to people about their history and their career. I don't need someone's going to read their resume, and I don't turn around and look at their resume and say like, oh, you did this. Tell me how you did it. Most of the time I'll say like, oh, like, you're coming out of this company. Why? Like the biggest thing for me is like, well, why are you leaving right now? Why are you on the market? What's really going on right now with you? And once I've gotten
Right.
into that type of stuff, then you can really start to hear and listen like, oh, so it sounds like this is a hot button for you. This is a hot button for you. So we always treat the conversations the same way, which is what are you looking for? What do you want to do? Why are you interested? Why are you leaving? Why are you out there? And then what I really love to do, honestly, is I like to have people dive into something that I can't read about on your resume or your LinkedIn profile. What I'm looking for here is the human aspect, the human element, And the genuosity, that's my word, is genuosity, is that genuine, authentic element that people bring to the table that can't be taught. And these are things you can't rehearse. Either you have it or you don't. And you can't teach someone to be just an amazing human being. They either have it or they don't. They can recite their resume back to me. They can give me all the sales terminologies and belief systems. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But I'm like, I'm not interested in any of the things that you studied out of the book. What I want to know is like, what makes you tick? What are you really going? And then I want to hear, because I'm like, awesome. Like everything you just said, we have that. And then let me back it up with what we do that empowers what you want and what your belief system is. Because now we have a lot of symmetry in place. And I've also talked to other people who are saying, I don't think this is going to be the place for you. And here's why. And I can go into some things. And I'm like, our belief systems just, we're not matched up. They're not the same. Right? You know, you're into like, oh, it's all about closing the deals. It's all about the dollars. It's all about how fat my wallet can be. And I'm like, listen, I like that. I think that's fantastic, but that's not what we do here. I'm like, we believe in a different level of service. We believe in a different level that in turn will yield us those results, not results focused first, purpose driven first, results second. So that's a lot of it's just like when you start talking to people and you start to listen to them and really kind of dive into some things, then you can start to hear it. And then all of a sudden, sometimes you start hearing some things, you're like, wow, what did you just say? Like, yeah, listen, I'm sorry, that ain't gonna fly here. And then other times I listen to things, I'm like, you're awesome. You have to have that sense when you're speaking to someone first. And if you feel like you're speaking to on a robotic level, then chances are you're probably ever talking to a robotic level. And you got to wonder like, well, how authentic is this conversation really? And then you can kind of work from there.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing you say is like really being true to Averity's authenticity and what's important to you and your organization. And then understanding the authenticity in the person that you're recruiting for you and probably for your clients too, right? So you're going to give them a different type of person than they might get from another staffing firm, right? Because you're looking at like the whole of the person.
Our whole philosophy in the company is people hire people. And I follow that philosophy when I hire and when I place people. And it's something is like when you're talking to someone, especially when you're interviewing a lot of candidates, you can hear things. You're like, oh, this is a really good candidate for a certain job. Those are the people you hear them talk. You're like, you're awesome. They've got stories. They've got things that you can sell that you're like, man, this is going to be a good person. And you get them on the phone with somebody and you're like, this guy, like, or this person, like, this is awesome. Like, how do you know? And it's like, how would you not want to hire this person? How do you not want to work with this person? And that's what I look for is someone I'm like, I want to just, whether you're going to be good at this job or not, I'll teach you how to do this job, but I want to work with you. I want you in my company. I want to be in business with you. I like where this is going to go. Let's go.
Yep. So I know your organization is remote, and that's the way of the world for a lot of organizations. So tell me how some of the tactics you use for maintaining the relationships in a remote environment, right? Because sometimes I get that all the time from leaders who come to me. They're like, I don't know what to do, or this is hard, or it was super easy when like everyone was in the same location, and now they're not. Some are, but yours aren't. So talk to me about like what you feel is the driver behind keeping the vibe strong within the remote environment. Like what are some key tactics that you make sure that you do to keep the team connected?
So I'm a people first manager. And I have people first, systems second, results third, believe it or not. A lot of times what I do is I think about myself and I say, well, what I want. I celebrate everything. And it's kind of an uncommon rule in the company that we celebrate everything. Little things we give high fives on, big things we give even bigger high fives on. So our Slack channels that we have are typically great things that have happened. Hey, just got this person to follow. We got an amazing candidate. Hey, just got a brand new client. Oh, got this going on. We celebrate everything. I'm a big fan of like, if you find something that you want a high five for, and let's get a virtual high five. Let's get a virtual high fives going. Now, when you do that, you create excitement because who doesn't want to be involved with something like that? Try to create an excitement and a buzz within the organization where people still feel like you can give high fives and some praise. And that's the other word is praise. To your teammates around you, like praise them for a job well done. So when they're celebrating something, look at them and be like, oh my God, that's awesome. It doesn't need to be amazing. Like, you're not looking for people who are out there like inventing fire. Like, you just like a little thing may have been the biggest thing for them, and then that's the spark that gets them going. And if they don't feel that backup, right, then they're just, I don't want to share anymore. And then they're demoralized. And then they get down with themselves. It's really easy to get down on yourself, and you're sitting here like, trying to high five the cat. It doesn't really work that way. So you got to
Yeah.
create a communicate like a sense of culture where celebrate everything, praise, appreciation, appreciate people's hard work, appreciate the people that work for you, appreciate that they show up every day, appreciate what they're doing because they could do it anywhere, but they don't. They do it for you.
Yeah.
And they do it for them. I mean, they do it for themselves, but they're doing it under your brand name, under your umbrella, for that name that's behind me. I think that's a big deal, and I'm super appreciative for that. So for me, I let them know that, like, everything you do on a day-to-day basis, the result, I love the results, don't get me wrong, but the effort, the hard work, the determination, the pride, and everything you do to get there, I know what it takes, and I appreciate it so much. I'm so thankful for what you're doing. And I know when you do these things and you do them correctly, you will yield the results you're looking for. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just keep going at it, and trust me, like, we've got your back. Again, the types of people we hire are very genuine, very humble, and very friendly, and very outgoing. And so right off the bat, you're kind of in a group setting where you're like, this feels good. It feels really nice to talk to my team. Create a structure where we have just open lines of communication with everybody in the organization. You can talk to anybody pretty much about anything. So when we're kind of the secret sauce is right off the bat, goes back to the laws. Everybody knows, and everybody's around like, this is the way the company works. This is the pillars we're built on. If we all abide by these set of rules and laws, if you will, think about how awesome it is. And it's not a cult, but it's like, no, it's just like, who doesn't want to be associated with a place that's just like fun, happy, colorful, genuine, communicative, and like we all laugh together, we all hug each other, and like, great, all that type of stuff. It's not that way all the time, but most of the time it is. So when you create this environment where the best you can, knowing the way I would want to feel, then go after it. There's things that I don't do, and I think sometimes those are pretty important. And a lot of people, like, they're so worried about KPIs, they're so worried about numbers, and they're so worried about, again, they get locked into the results. And yeah, you want the results, but at the end of the day, like, I don't want results by burning bridges and throwing hand grenades. I don't want results from someone who's miserable. That's not going to help us. And no, your performance doesn't equate your happiness at an organization. And I've been told this before. They're like, oh, you're happy when you're producing, and when you're not producing, you're not happy. And I was like, actually, that's that opposite. I'm like, the reason I'm not producing is because I'm miserable here, to be brutally honest with you. I'm like, I don't feel supported. I don't feel loved. I feel like this job is literally all my job is to do is make you a big pile of money in the money bin that you can dive in. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, this is ridiculous. So you know what? My performance is going to drop because I'm miserable. And then it's like, well, if you can perform, you'd be happier. That's someone who just doesn't get it. I'm like, no, you're looking at the bottom line. Also, it's like, you're performing. You must be ecstatic. And it's like, no, I'm performing because I like the money, but I'm still miserable with this job. And you give me the opportunity, I'm out the door as quickly as possible. Like, I'm like, I'm wearing a parachute and I've got another one next to me. That's how happy at this job I really am right now. So I've been in those environments and I remember them. And I just think I'm like, just, I don't know, think long term with it. And give people the opportunity to love things. And remember that you're managing people. You're not managing robots. You're not managing numbers. You're not managing tactics. We started this by saying, our environments are real these days. Your kids will walk in on you. The dog will get sick. The dog will bark. The Amazon person will ring the doorbell 14 times thinking that you're going to come answer it. Weird things happen in life. Someone could be sick in the other room that you don't know what happened. And maybe they're a little bummed out because both my kids are down with the flu. I've been running around like a mad person all morning. One of them is up all night sick and a little stressed out right now. And it's like, all right, well, that's life. You have a life outside of this job. Like, respect that. And I think these are all just really, I call this all common sense, but common sense is not that common. So I think it's really important to understand all these different types of things when you're managing people.
Yeah. And you mentioned something that really got me thinking about, like, it's also important to look at the things that you do and that create this vibe, but it's also important to recognize the things you maybe purposely don't do that might be a culture killer or a vibe killer, because I think it's both are important, but sometimes those don't do these things kind of creep into the do if you like you're put in a certain situation or you're encounter a certain type of person. Like, it helps you keep your true north, I think, is when you know what you're not going to do and what you are going to do, right? It like helps define both and the boundaries that you kind of move forward with.
The
One of
tactic that we practice called feel, think, act. So feel, think, act.
Mm,
My wife is a professional, like a business coach, executive coach, and spiritual coach. And so I'm blessed enough to be kind of part of her circle. And it was just a technique. It's like this idea of feel, think, act. So feel the situation first. Something happens. Like this whole idea of like, life is, 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. Right. And so we're so quick to react too quickly. Right. We've all, I don't want to say like,
yeah.
we've all been there where, maybe you've cut someone off while you're driving. Now, sometimes you've done it like on purpose, just because you're like, I got to get over it. Sometimes you've done it like, I didn't mean to. I'm wicked sorry about that. My bad. And then the driver behind you decides to blare on the horn nonstop and then flip you off. Now, obviously, in my opinion, very unnecessary. Unless you're in New York, then that's normal. That's one of the things. Like, now feel that first, like before you think and then act. Right. So, like, is it necessary to blare on the horn and
Yeah.
give the middle finger to a perfectly good stranger that you might meet later today somewhere? Remember that. Like, you may bump into that person later on.
Yeah.
So is it necessary to do that? I know what you're feeling right now, but think about it. And then, you know what? Rather than doing that, all I had to do was tap the brake just a little bit and let that person in front of me. And now the world is a little bit more peaceful just by doing that. And then all of a sudden you're like,
Totally.
you know what? I'm a little happier now. And I didn't have to react to that certain situation in that way. So I think it's that way when you're talking to people.
Right.
We get the opportunity sometimes to deal with people that get a little under our skin. It's easier to react a certain way and scream and yell and swear at them. Or it's just like, you know what? It's not going to do any good. Like, take an entire second, take a nice deep breath,
Yeah.
think about what you really want out of a situation, and then act accordingly. So I think it's really
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
to really just get yourself centered, get yourself squared up. And that takes 7 seconds to take a nice deep breath, relax, think about really what you want, and then act accordingly.
Yeah. Is there anything that you do on as kind of like a daily ritual or a part of your morning routine or anything like that to set like the right mindset so that you can be for the people and about the people?
I'm fortunate enough that I live I happen to live in a beautiful, I have a lot of acreage and a lot of silence out here. So I'm pretty fortunate that way. But I can say you can do it anywhere. So I'm a big fan of when I wake up in the morning, I wake up early. And I like to take at least 15, 20 minutes to myself just to get in tune with myself. I'm a coffee drinker, so naturally I get up, I have a cup of coffee. I like to sit outside on my front porch and I do some nice meditative breathing. I let myself just kind of soak into the new day, kind of let like the fog just kind of come over me. And I'm like, all right, what am I feeling right now? And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll sit around and I remember a lot of things I'm grateful for. So I like to start my day with a nice little meditative set. I breathe into my heart and I think about all the things I'm like, not all the things, but I like to think of a couple of things that I'm really grateful for. Kind of sets me on the right tone
Yeah.
of that, of like, wow, I get an opportunity today, like maybe change someone's life. Like, how freaking cool is that? Like, wow. And yeah, do I get the opportunity to deal with a ton of crap?
Oh.
Absolutely. Do I get the opportunity to work probably what will be a 15 to 18 hour day today because I've got meetings all day tomorrow and I'm traveling to New York for a business trip? And yeah, I do. But you know what? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? These are the things that I get to do.
Do
Where
it.
I'd rather spend, a nice solid, 10 to 12 hour workday, doing what I do, or 10 to 12 hours sitting on the couch. And that's not for everybody to answer because personally, if I sat on the couch for 30 minutes, I go out of my mind. I'm restless. I need projects. I love doing stuff. I love having stuff to do. I'm like, all right, there's always something that can be done. There's always something to do. I do take time to myself to like just hang out and like just watch the ball game or something like that. And I do that. But I really enjoy having impact. I really enjoy like just staying busy and doing stuff. So for me, it's what else do I
Yeah.
get a chance to do?
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things, but if there's one thing that you could kind of boil it down to for everybody who's listening to say, like, if you're going to go choose to do one thing next, it doesn't require getting a whole meeting together. It doesn't require somebody giving you a budget. It doesn't require, like, we get in our head about like creating a vibe is like, having all this money to go do things that are big and fancy. But like, I don't believe that. And I don't think you do either. So, what's that one thing that you could give advice on or about or to these folks that are listening of like, go do this next?
Know your purpose. That's a deep one, but I am going to say this out loud. Understand why, what is really important to you, but understand why. Everything I think has to start with a why. If you're just doing something for the sake of doing it, you don't have a why behind it, you don't have a purpose behind it, whatever it is, know what you want to do and know why you want to do it and get in tune with that and love what you do and do what you love. You've got a long time on this earth to do some amazing things. And I think there's a lot of, I like it. I tell everyone, it's like, if you don't know why you're doing it, stop and figure that out first and then back to doing it. And then when you figure out the results of really what you're going after, then you have a better purpose. And when you have a better purpose, you have a better mission. When you have a better mission, you're going to have a better, all in all, it's going to lead you to a better outcome. Anything can be a chore. I don't know if anybody who has kids out there, if you've ever had to make a birthday cake for your child and your child wants a very specific birthday cake that we all know what that's like when you have kids and you're like, oh my God, this is a total pain in the butt. However, you also know the look on their face when you sing happy birthday and you bring them out and they get to blow out the candles and they see the cake. And then you say to yourself, that was the most awesome thing I got to be part of today. And then you go, you know what? That's why I spent all those hours learning how to hand make strawberry frosting from scratch, right? Or that's why I did it. And when you understand things like that, it brings a whole new life to what you are really doing. So a little weird. I know it's not a lot of people out there. But I think that's what I say is like, I think it's the most important thing that people can have.
Yeah. I mean, we spend a whole lot of time at work, which is why I'm so passionate about like talking to people like you about how they bring the vibe into the workplace and how to make it better, because we spend a whole lot of time at work and work shouldn't feel like work. And I think for too many people out there, it just feels like a grind. And imagine if it was like grit, not grind, and they were passionate about it and they were willing to do the things that it took. And then they got to see the candles blown out. And you're just like, it was all worth it. It was so worth it. That sucked in the moment, but it was so worth it. And it didn't feel like work because I'm so passionate about X, Y, or Z, right?
It's funny because you mentioned that the grind is, I remember a while ago, years ago, I had a conversation with a former business partner, boss person. And he was like, Chris, there's a reason they call it a job. You don't get up every day and go to fun. You go to work, you grind it out and you make it work. And I was like, I'm like, I don't know where you're going after this conversation, but I'm like, I don't know how quickly I can put this parachute on, but I'm out of here. I was like, that is the worst advice I've ever had anyone give me. But I'm like, I don't want to work. Why is work a 4-letter word? You know, you're going to spend 75% of your life working, getting ready for work, commuting to work, and work, commuting home from work, unwinding from work. That's 75% of your life. Okay. Why do we treat work like a 4-letter word? Create an environment that's fun. Create an environment where people like what they do, where they can thrive at what they do. Like, wow. And watch the results. Watch the results just happen. No, I don't think work should be a grind. I don't think work should be a 4-letter word. I think work, you should love it. And you should love it. And if you can't figure out a way to make fun with it, then you should figure out a way to make fun or talk to somebody how to make fun. Or honestly, not to be weird, go get another job. Go work somewhere else.
The thing that sat with me from my chat with Chris today was this concept of feel, think, act. So often we just act without feeling or thinking. So I think it's important to take a pause to really understand something, and the impact an action will have is a skill and truly something that will make or break a vibe. I challenge each of you to take a few minutes each day to pause and consider Chris's mantra of feel, think, act. To find out more about Chris and Averity, you can find him on LinkedIn at Chris Allaire and on his website at www.averityteam.com. If this episode inspired you and you want to see how you can take the next step to creating a better vibe within your organization, I'd love for you to download our complimentary 75 Vibes worksheet. This is a simple tool to create a habit and mindset around creating great vibes in work and life. The best part, it's simple and it works.